Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the second edition of the COVID-19 Asian American Business Advocacy webinar. My name is George Moy. I want to do a quick introduction of what's going to happen today in the agenda so that you are familiar with what we're attempting to do today. Again, we have Mr. Bo Steiner from SBA returning to offer the most significant part of the program is answer your questions. Mr. Bo Steiner had done a great job last seminar on explaining the high-level explanation of the CARE Act program. And we did have a recording of it, and I'll be sending you a full chat, that recording, so you get a high-level understanding. Today, we want him to provide the latest update. I also want to take this opportunity to go through the agenda very quickly. We have a few folks, co-hosts making open remarks. My name is George Moy again, part of the Asian American Executive Network. We are a volunteer organization mostly in Chicago, putting together a team of volunteers to help with Asian American advocacy. Our goal is to bridge the gap between the government, the nonprofits, and all the folks who are helping the Asian American business. We're going to identify gaps, and we, the team, will help fill the gap to make sure Asian American business get the support they needed. And we also have a great partnership with Mr. Chilling Tong of National Aid. She'll be ready to give you some opening remark. And we're also very fortunate to have Mr. Jimmy Ferguson, a board of director at ACE, and also a policy director. He'll share with you what's happening between ACE and member of Congress and policymaker. And my friend and colleague in Asian American Executive Network, Anson Wu, will take you west away, and he's the guy who's hosting the webinar, doing marketing, and actually we'll be doing a lot more webinar, mostly in beyond the national level. We'll be doing Illinois, Cook County, different county and city as the next level of support for our local Asian American business. Today we also have Mr. Paul Chang, Doug Nguyen, and Marie Flores from the White House Initiative on Asian American Pacific Islander, who is sharing with you what's happening at the national level and some of the agencies' priorities and support for Asian American communities. Again, Mr. Bo Steiner is coming back, and he'll be speaking on the latest status. And we're also very happy to share that we do have some success in the community, and some of them are brave enough to come in and share with you the application and approval process and lesson learned. And then we will reserve some time at the end to answer your questions. And I encourage you to ask those questions during the call and as they come to your mind. And Mr. Anson Wu will monitor them and track them and make sure ask our keynote speaker, Mr. Bo Steiner. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to my friend and colleague, Mr. Chilling Tong, President and CEO of National Aid. Chilling.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much for putting this together. My name is Chilling Tong, the President of National Aid's Asian American Pacific Islander Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship. Now we have about 65 affiliated partners and alliances throughout the United States. And we are very, very happy to work with Asian American Executive Network for this webinar. Our mission, especially for COVID-19, we want to help Asian business, AAPI business owner to overcome the business challenges. And we set a special website called acesmallbusiness.org. It's under the nationalace.org website. We have a translate into 6 languages. And also we will have the Vietnamese and Korean webinars coming, and we put our events on our website. We're very happy to know that congressional leader and Trump administration has appropriated additional funding to PPP and EIDL. It's about $310 billion for PPP, and also 60 billion of the 310 billion will be specially set aside for smaller financial institutions to ensure loans for minority and areas. And another 60 billion in addition funding for SBA elder loan. So we are very happy, and we work closely with Congress and also the administration to make sure small, medium-sized business will be able to get funding this soon. And following the Senate passage, the Senate has passed the bill, and the House will probably take up a vote, hopefully tomorrow, and send it over to the president's desk for signature by the end of this week. So therefore, we wish all our small business owner will be able to ready to apply once they get funding. Again, thank you so much, and thank you for your time, and we're really looking forward to work closely with you.
Mr. Ferguson?
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy's note. Give it.
Got him?
Hey, Jimmy, are you with us?
Yeah.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay. My apologies. I guess I have the old technology. Good morning, everyone. And George, thank you for putting this webcast together. As a policy committee chair for National ACE, we started to look at what's going to happen in the future in our country back in February. Then at the end of February, the National ACE and Policy Committee, we looked at, how can we prepare for AAPI small business around the country. So first week in March, as we were developing our plan, and the direction that, projecting the direction that U.S. is going to be going, and also AAPI small business, all small business around the country, that it was very important for us to be proactive for the 2 million AAPI business in U.S. So first week in March, Shilling and Daniel and myself and Karen Ng, the chair of the National ACE. Now we met with the Congressional Asian Pacific Island American Caucus in Washington, D.C. and share and request what their plans are, what the Congress is looking at as related to the coronavirus, and what the projection was for U.S. And we made our recommendation. And of course, our recommendation was geared towards the funding and making sure that the AAPI business had the same opportunity of any other business to get the resource and support that we needed. At the same time, one of our board members, Andrew True, was testifying in the House Small Committee and sharing what his business and business like his is going through, and before even closing everything. And at the same time, after meeting with KPAC, we also met with the new small business administrator and in the role that they're going to be playing with this entire resource, the process. And we also made a recommendation to them, making sure we protect the AAPI small business, and also making recommendations concerning what the process would be. We asked, please, to make it simple, make it easy, and really go through the local banks, and they did that, except the numbers were so much that both the banks, it seems like, and even the national banks, and really the SBA system crashed many times throughout the 2-week process. I think we learned a lot in the last 3 weeks. I think the banks learned a lot. And with that, as Shilling was saying, that $310 billion that's going to be most likely would be approve and be ready to execute first of next week, maybe Monday or Tuesday. And once that happens, we have to make sure that our business is ready. If they're not already in the queue with SBA, they need to have everything ready, working with their banks and making sure the banks are ready too. So that's the most important. Then we will come back once the loans are approved and assist the businesses as it relates to making sure that the execution is done with a 75% of the loans going towards the staffing, personnel, and payroll. We also had an opportunity to meet with or call with many of the AAPI banks and the opportunities they have and the concerns, the issues they have, and we agreed to partner and to support the AAPI business and the AAPI banks and with this second round of funding. So this is where we are today, and we are planning what's going to be next couple weeks, making sure that our businesses are ready to participate. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for the contributions, helping out the community. So I'll be your MC for this event. My name is Anson Wu. I'm the Chief Creative Officer for the brand Gray. We are helping out entrepreneurs and business owners, especially through these difficult times. But without further ado, I want to welcome some really close friends from White House Initiative on Asian American and Pacific Islanders. First, we have Paul Chang. Are you here, Paul? Paul, you might be muted. So Paul is the Regional Network National Co-Chair.
Can you hear me now?
Of Labor. Hey, Paul, there you go. Paul.
Yeah, how are you?
Good. Tell us about what are you working on?
Well, at the White House Initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, there's over 400 federal agencies. And the regional network was created as a means of being that bridge between the federal government agencies and the community. As you know, many of the regional network members are senior leaders within the career staff of each federal agencies and at the regional, local, district levels, both regional and district levels. So we are the ones that interact directly with the communities. So navigating this maze is quite difficult, but we want to make sure that during these challenging times, these resources are going to be available to all of us, all of the communities, and it's important to get updated information at the all-in-one website at the www.coronavirus.gov website. That website gets resources to the entire federal government that does the resources. We live in unprecedented times. These are the COVID-19 crisis. I'm sorry, there's a lawnmower going on behind me, so let me close the window.
It's okay. It's the new normal.
This is a new normal. My son walks in on me sometimes during my Zoom meetings. So this is what we have now. The guys doing our lawns are doing our lawns, but we do live in unprecedented times. The COVID-19 crisis has hit everybody around the world. It's a global issue. We haven't really experienced this type of crisis before. And I was actually in New York during 9/11/2000, and I was by Metrotech and saw the towers fall, and even then the response it was nothing like this. As a result of this, just like what happened in 9/11, many in the communities, especially the API communities, have been targeted for hate crimes, you know, they. Again, people who hate can't even tell, you know, what between, can't distinguish between any of us, and many Asians were targeted as a result of those of that situation and of that crisis. So I know there are a lot of people nervous, and then there are a lot of misinformation out there that's creating hate crimes. My colleague Doug, I've put him in touch with the Justice Department. Justice Department has a concerted effort with the DOJ CRS that's out to address these issues. I want you to know that any of us, you have a great leader here in the Chicago region, Doug Nguyen, my good friend and colleague there from the Social Security Administration. He has been the lead for many years, and
Hey, Paul.
has, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but can you talk just really quickly about what's happening nationally from the White House Initiative Regional Network on PPP and hate crimes and along those lines, and we're going to hand it over to Doug, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
So nationally with the PPP, you know, there's many payroll protection program, as well as the FFCRA. There's many laws that's been enacted as a result to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. And what we're trying to do is get those information out as soon as possible. As you know, both businesses, we don't know if we're going to be, business owners are very nervous, don't know if they're going to be continuing business, if they're going to be, can weather this. This is where it's important, where businesses take advantage of these programs to ensure that both they themselves stay in business, but also protect their workers during these times of uncertainties. We have, you know, workers are very concerned right now about, you know, losing their jobs during these times, but also, you know, what this means. You know, many of the workers are at home. Their kids are at home, just like my son. He's out from school. What does this mean for work as we know it? And this is where, as the White House initiative, we are doing in conjunction with our leader, executive director Tina Nguyen, as well as our commission, to work with the communities to get that information out, to work with the communities, but also to get that input from our communities. It's important that we hear from the communities about what are some of the issues facing you, so that we can address those issues directly. So you have both Doug, and also I want to thank George and Chiling for putting this together. So, you know, we have these resources. Please contact either WHAAPI through George, or through Doug, through Chiling. We can work on this together, and we will get through this together. I want to thank you so much for everything, and I'll shoot it over to Doug, my colleague. Doug.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the input. Definitely appreciate it. So next, I want to bring in Doug Nguyen, who is the Regional Network Lead and Regional Communication Directors, Social Security Administration. Doug, are you here with us?
Yes, thank you very much, guys, and thanks, George, thanks, AEN and ACE for this great program. And I don't want to take any more time, because I know everybody's here to hear from both Steiner. So I'm one of 10 regional networks within the White House initiative on AAPIs, and you know, we can't thank all of you for your continuous work, whatever role that you play to serve the American public and the AAPI community, specifically through these difficult and challenging times. We exist as the regional network to basically amplify the White House initiatives support of the president's support for the economic empowerment of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Specifically at this time, you know, the nearly 2 million AAPI-owned businesses that contribute nearly $1 trillion annually to the U.S. economy, and they employ more than 3.6 million Americans who work everywhere from mail delivery to grocery stores, laundry services, and many others. And so, I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't say I have until this afternoon, this evening, to urge all Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders who receive Social Security checks, if you have dependents under 17, you must go to the IRS/coronavirus website to register your families if you want that extra $500 per dependent benefit that comes on top of the 1,200 stimulus payments. And so in a very practical way, the regional network is getting the word out, helping our friends over at Treasury, helping our friends over at IRS to get these stimulus payments, to get the benefit for their dependents out as soon as possible. And again, I can't state this enough. Families have until the end of today, if they receive Social Security, if they have dependents under 17, they have IRS is giving them to the end of today to register their families to get that $500 extra per dependent benefit. So that's just one of the ways. Paul mentioned the other way, the other initiative that we're taking on. We have about a dozen agencies within this regional network. As Paul said, there are 400 different federal agencies at this time, working very closely with other state and local governments to provide a whole of government response to the COVID-19 crisis. That includes whether it's getting medical supplies to the right sources, PP, and all the rest. But right now, as Paul mentioned, we're very concerned about rising hate crimes against AAPI. So all of our regional networks, including myself, we're going to get the Civil Rights Division of DOJ involved. We're going to be supporting their activities basically to amplify the message that the Justice Department is committed to prosecuting hate crimes and violations of anti-discrimination laws against AAPIs in any way, shape, or form. And we rely on our local community leaders to basically address these anti-AAPI incidents and hate crimes prevention and response. So that's going to be, we're working on multiple fronts, supporting Bo and getting his message out on small business assistance as well. So that's all I'm going to say on behalf of our regional network. And we've got 2 of our regional network agencies on board today, including Bo Steiner, the district director for SBA, but our next speaker as well. She's from the US EEOC. And Maria is unique because she not only handles responsibilities in this region, helping us with our regional network, but she also helps Region 7, that includes Missouri and Iowa. So I'll let you introduce Maria. Thanks, appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug. I think what you're doing is really important for the community too. Thank you so much. Another good friend from White House Initiative, Maria Flores, like what Doug was saying, outreach education managers, U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commissions. Maria, welcome.
Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. And speaking of the new norm, it is starting to rain and thunder, so I'm hoping this won't affect the internet connection. But make it real quick because I know individuals have a lot of questions for SBA, and I want to talk a little bit about my agency, which is still very important. We're the key agency on the federal level responsible for enforcing those federal laws that prohibit discrimination. So it's illegal to discriminate against people in any aspect of employment because of their race, their color, sex, because they're LGBT individuals, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, pregnancy, religion, national origin, age for 40 and older, disability, genetic information, and retaliation. And we enforce these laws throughout the United States through the 53 offices that we have all throughout the United States, again, including Puerto Rico. These laws give EEOC the authority to accept, to investigate and to litigate charges of discrimination against employers who are covered by the law. Just want to make it clear to employers that we do step in as neutral fact finders. The employers who are covered by these federal laws, generally speaking, have 15 or more employees. In terms of the individuals who are protected, this includes current employees, employees who may be working through temporary staffing agencies, job applicants, former employees, and very important, non-US citizens, regardless of their immigration status, be they HB1 workers, lawful permanent residents, refugees, asylees, even undocumented workers are protected against employment discrimination. Some of the big issues we see are failure to hire, termination, wages, promotion, demotion, harassment, which is something I wanted to quickly emphasize. Our chair has issued a statement about unlawful national origin and race discrimination against Asian Americans and people of Asian descent that has been occurring in the workplace because of the pandemic. Harassment in the workplace is prohibited. We want to make sure that people exercise their civil rights by coming to the EEOC to bring a complaint. They can start that process on our website at www.eeoc.gov or call us 1-800-669-4000. And even though people are teleworking, such as myself, we still want to make sure that we're out there providing educational presentations, such as what we're doing today. So our educational presentations, nearly all of them are no cost, for free. And what people need to do, community reps, people working in the faith-based organizations and communities, whatever, to give us a phone call, contact your local outreach and education coordinator about scheduling a presentation, be it by Zoom or something simple like bringing people together for a conference call. With regards to businesses and the COVID-19, we have established a web page regarding coronavirus and the COVID-19 to help employers navigate some of these issues as they're concerned about the health and well-being of their employees. So if you go to that landing page, I would immediately go to the question and answer document, what you should know about COVID-19 and the Americans with Disabilities Act and other laws. It puts things in a nice question and answer format. Now, if you can't sleep at night, then I strongly recommend reading the detailed, I don't know how many page guidance that talks about pandemic preparedness in the workplace. But again, I would go straight to that question and answer document. Also, to make things easy, we have a pre-recorded webinar posted on our website that also talks about the COVID-19 pandemic, and there's also a transcript of that webinar that is available. I want to encourage you small businesses to reach out to the EEOC. Again, we might have had a lot of our training seminars and conferences that are on a holding pattern right now, but even employers are allowed to contact us to get a free 60-minute presentation. So again, contact that outreach and education coordinator. Many free publications are available on our website, fact sheets, statistics, etc. I would strongly recommend that you visit our small business resource center, where we have a lot of tip sheets and a lot of information that is user-friendly and bite-sized pieces of information. That would be a good place to go. And if employer representatives, small business owners, human resource people, whoever the case may be, you're more than welcome to contact the small business liaison or people like myself, the outreach and education managers, with your questions about equal employment opportunity laws and about the coronavirus and COVID-19. As I tell people, these are your tax dollars at work. Take advantage of them. As my father, the professor, used to say, there's no such thing as a stupid question. But people can stay stupid if they don't ask questions. And to make things really easy, for those individuals in the Chicago district, I'm going to give you my direct phone number and my email address. I am the person that takes those calls from employer representatives in Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, North Dakota, and South Dakota. My direct line is area code 414-662-3699, again, 414-662-3699, or shoot an email to me at maria.flores, Flores, at eeoc.gov. All right, hoping this information will be useful to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Those are really good information. And I think the situation are changing rapidly, so staying informed is one of the best things you can do. And also knowing your rights, speaking up is super, super important. Thanks for the friends from the WHAAPI initiative people. Really appreciate your help. So next we have our keynote speaker. Before we introduce Robert, I want to make sure everybody know that if you have questions, feel free to post it to the chat box. I'll be monitoring the chat box as well. So I want to welcome again a very popular man, our keynote speaker, Robert Steiner. Robert is Illinois District Director of SBA, Small Business Administrations. And Robert, are you here with us?
I'm here.
Hey, Robert, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Welcome back. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So I'm just going to kind of bang out a couple of slides here just to kind of set the context for our conversation today. I think probably appropriate to just set expectations up front. So as was discussed earlier, significant movement on legislation around some of the key programs, the Paycheck Protection Program, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, et cetera. At this point, it is legislation. So basically kind of the process that happens is, you know, I think the Senate's agreed on the language that they want to put in place, which I'll cover in a second. House is looking at it now. Once they come to agreement, everybody votes, goes to the president for signature. At that point, the SBA comes in to establish what the specific rules are. And actually, this is in conjunction with Department of Treasury as well, what the rules are and how we implement the program. So I don't want to get ahead of all of them and some of the specific questions that I've seen thus far in the Q&A. Suffice to say that some of this stuff will become clear as we get the rules that specifically apply to the programs, and most, I think, probably specifically the discussion around the $60 billion carve out on the PPP for community development financial institutions and smaller banking institutions. $30 billion each, and what that looks like and how that will be processed is, I'd say, kind of TBD, and how those are carved out. So just to level set there. But broadly, from the standpoint of the legislation, obviously the Secretary of the Treasury Mnuchin and Administrator Carranza from SBA have asked the Congress to appropriate additional funding. They have initially, it looks like what they pulled together is $250 billion in funding for the kind of the general purpose, I'd say, appropriation. And then you've got $60 billion set aside for community development financial institutions, other community-based lending institutions. You've got $50 billion for an additional funding for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. Just for context, the initial appropriation for the EIDL was $7 billion. So they've basically, it's a decent multiple there. And then an additional $10 billion for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance grants. So that's what's in the language in the initial Senate language that I have seen anyway. So that's kind of the context. So where are we now? Hopefully you can see my screen. Basically, Paycheck Protection Program, for everybody who may not be familiar, it's a 100% guaranteed loan of up to $10 million that can be 100% forgivable if 75% of the proceeds are used for payroll costs. It's not a credit-based application process. It's based on your historical monthly average payroll expenses times 2.5 is the max loan amount. And it's for small businesses and nonprofits with fewer than 500 employees. I saw a question about whether they've changed the rules or around the 501c3 or I'm sorry, around other eligible nonprofits. At this point, I'd say it's premature to say whether additional nonprofit structures in addition to 501c3 and 501c19 will be eligible at this time. Notably, and this is for those of you that maybe are looking at applying, looking forward, and or you've applied and you've received a PPP loan, reminder that independent contractor expenses, so those 1099s, cannot be included in the payroll calculation for your loan amount, nor can they be used as expenses eligible to contribute for the purposes of forgiveness. So they cannot contribute to that 75% that would apply towards loan forgiveness. As you're all aware, the program is currently not accepting additional applications due to lapse in appropriation. We got a visitor here, sorry. Sorry about that. A little humanity to the whole conversation here. If you're looking at status of your application, you're gonna wanna contact your lender. The other piece is that from a forgiveness standpoint, basically the process there, what you're gonna look at if you have received a loan is that the lender is expected to disperse, make at least initial disbursement within 10 days of the loan being approved by SBA and making full disbursement within 30 days. That 8-week period from that initial disbursement is the period in which you're gonna look at documenting the expenditures, at least 75% of that disbursement going towards payroll and payroll costs. So just something to remember as you look at what that, it's that 8-week window, and that also applies to the headcount. So part of the PPP is that you are maintaining your headcount. So again, you'll need to look at that's over that 8-week period from that initial disbursement. For those of you that maybe applied to the program but that didn't get submitted before the appropriations lapsed, in those instances, the question comes up, well, can I apply to other lenders? Do I just wait in the queue that I'm already in? I can't tell you what you should do. It's transparent to us as far as like what you're doing with the lenders, because it's a private kind of sector thing. They're delegated to make these decisions. You're going to have to make up your mind about what you want to do and what you think is appropriate for your particular business situation. So sorry, I can't give you more than that, but those, we can't give specific advice on those sorts of things. All right. Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program and the EIDL Advance. The second key program, this is a program where you apply for the loan directly with SBA. We underwrite, we service the whole thing. As you can imagine, we had unprecedented demand for this program. So as of last week, the program ceased accepting applications. And again, we're in a holding pattern as additional funding goes through legislation. But just for everybody's context, these are loans of up to $2 million. The loan amount is based on the documentation that you provided in your application. So you don't request a specific amount. It's based on what is assessed to be your working capital needs based on your application. The interest rates for this program are 3.75% for small businesses, 2.75% for nonprofits. Again, most small businesses with 500 or fewer employees are eligible. In this case, nonprofits, there is not a size limit on the number of employees. Terms up to 30 years, first payment deferred for 12 months. Again, we aren't currently accepting applications. Those applications that are in are being processed on a first come, first served basis. So what we've seen right now is that, again, a significant backlog of application just to the overall volume. Loan closings have begun. So if your loan is approved, you'll receive a notification through email or whatever form of documentation or information you've offered with the agency, and they'll walk you through the next steps to close that loan. Once you close the loan, you can expect disbursement within 5 days. We in the Illinois district can't check your application status on your loan applications. The only what we've been instructed to do is direct you to disaster customer service at sba.gov as the key source of information on application status. As part of the CARES Act, they also had the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance, which is an advance of up to $10,000. Now, for everybody's clarity, this advance is up to $10,000. So not every entity will be eligible for the $10,000. It's not a flat grant. The calculation to determine what that grant amount is based on payroll, basically what you shared as your payroll on staff. So for each employee, you are allotted $1,000. For up to 10 employees or $10,000. So just for context, so you know. Disbursements began on the advanced program on April 10th, and they are made through direct deposit. So when you made application, you provided banking information, and what we're hearing is that businesses are seeing the funds hit their accounts directly. There's no notification, there's no emails that are going out. It's just the funds are being direct deposited into the business owner's account. As far as the advance, it is a grant. So even if you applied for the economic injury disaster loan and you were denied, you do not need to return that the advance. And if you are approved for the EIDL, then the portion of the EIDL that was advanced is forgiven. So again, that's the status on that program. And as I mentioned, the proposal is that program is increased by $50 billion for the EIDL and $10 billion for the advance. Some additional programs, just want to make people aware. SBA debt relief program. SBA is paying principal and interest on current 7A and 504 loans for a 6-month period. So principal and interest for 6 months on those loans, as well as on new 7A 504 microloans issued before September 27th. So again, if you have a loan through the SB that's guaranteed by the SBA, then you are likely eligible for that debt relief program. In addition, we have the Express Bridge pilot program, which offers up to $25,000 with SBA Express lenders. Not a lot of paperwork. You do have to have an existing relationship with that lender. But again, it's to bridge you through the challenges that we're facing right now relative to COVID-19. And then finally, there are conventional lending programs, the 7A 504 microloan programs that continue to be available, so that you would work with an SBA lender or a certified development corporation that SBA oversees to engage and secure a loan through those programs. They're conventional programs, so you would look at, it's a credit-based decision. You'd have to go through the whole application and other processes. Lastly, I'd just say, for those of you that aren't familiar, we fund a number of organizations that provide one-on-one business counseling and advising at no cost to the business owner. These include the Illinois Small Business Development Center, SCORE, Women's Business Development Centers, Veteran Business Outreach Centers. These are great organizations to help you both with, as you look at navigating, navigating the current COVID-19 challenges from a strategy, tactics standpoint to, hey, making application of these different programs. Great resources there. So encourage you to reach out to them, as they are trained on all these loan programs, as well as just providing general business advice and counseling. And with that, I will go to the Q&A, Anson. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Robert. Those are really helpful, super organized. Thank you so much for helping out here. Couple of questions that pop up. A recurring question is for the EIDL loan. I know you're not accepting application right now. For people that have not applied, can they still go to the website to submit something and wait in the queue, or they have to wait for another announcement come out to apply it again?
So, I guess for the economic injury disaster loan program, that is not accepting applications right now. So, so basically, you can't apply. If you've already applied, I would not recommend going in and applying again, because that will just confuse the system. If you've already applied, made a complete application, you're already in the queue. Applying again is not going to do anything. You'll just be at the back of the line for a second time, and it will likely slow down the overall process as they try to sort out why there's multiple applications from the same person in the system. So that's the first thing. As far as the PPP, again, if you've already submitted application with a bank and it's in process, I would encourage you to reach out to the lender and discuss with them the status and kind of what their next steps are. A lot of the lenders, what I've seen is that they are, for all the applications that they've received that they were not able to submit to SBA for approval, they are continuing to process those applications so that if additional appropriation is added, then they will be ready to submit those applications quickly. So, that's kind of what some of them are looking at. But again, if, your decision is whether you stick with your lender that you've already applied with, or you go to another lender, that's kind of your own decision.
Got it. This is great. So we're going to move on to the next segment, talk about PPP. We have some great news. We have other community members that actually went through the PPP process and got the loan. And for those of you who still have questions, feel free to reach out, and we will compile those questions and share it with Robert to make sure that those will get answered as well. Okay, so keep the questions coming, guys. So next, I want to introduce Gina Lau. Hey, Gina, are you here with us? Yeah, I see you right there. How are you? So Jen, I actually applied through the PPP program, actually received funding. So I want to hear your experience. Hey, Jenna? Jen's mute.
I am fine. And actually, hi guys, my name is Janny. Thanks for having me.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Since I have 3 minutes.
Can you share with us the process that you went through and the.
Absolutely. I'm getting there. Yep. So the key, what makes AAPI successful is that we work hard and we follow the rules, right? While following the rules has served us really well in normal times, just want to remind everyone that COVID-19 is not a normal time. The key to winning is to understand the game and the rules. And the game we're talking about today is to get all of you funded. And here are the 2 rules that I came up with that hopefully will help you win. The rule number 1 is if you're told to wait and be patient by your banker, do not wait. Call and follow up on a daily basis. In fact, in our case, we called every 4 hours, which I'm sure drove our banker nuts. But guess what? It did get us eventually funded. And the rule number 2 is that if you do not have a confirmation number yet, okay, the key here, I know Bo had mentioned, if you have one, you don't want to start the process, right? But if you do not have a confirmation number yet, that your loan has been approved, you need to look elsewhere. Meaning, take your application to another local bank. And again, I want to emphasize that a local bank will make you feel, I think, better than our case. Now, I have heard from some of my colleagues that they have known their banker for years and they want to be loyal. And I know loyalty is a good quality. This is not the time, okay? This is the time that you need to get results before the funds run out again. And I'm sure your banker will be understanding and not be offended. In our situation, we bank with one of the big banks. Out of respect, I will not name the national bank. When the PPP program was launched on April 3rd, we were told by our banker to wait and be patient. Like good Asians, we listened and we waited. However, after 6 days of waiting, we knew the funds were going to run out, so we didn't do anything. We talked to a lot of business owners, and yes, we got frustrated too. But lucky for us, we did get a win of a local bank that was approving loans, and we went there. Fast forward, 10 days later, the money. Now, typically, it's typically the moral of the story is that patience is a virtue. However, during this pandemic, waiting will not get you the funds needed to rehire your employees and allow you to open your doors for business again. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Shalene and George for inviting me to share my story with you today. And if I can be of any assistance to any one of you small businesses, please let me know. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think it's a good point. Follow up, follow through in this difficult time. There's no point to wait around. That's a really good point. Next, we have Andrew Chow. How are you, Andrew?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Thank you, George and Anson and everyone for really setting up the stage. I think following Janie's, I would say, a great assessment. I think I would just provide an echo a little bit of the same things that she did. So most people know I was also a part of a major bank. I'm one of the co-founders of Boba Guys. So to just give you an idea of size, maybe to help, is we are a food and beverage chain. We have about 17 cafes, or we had about 17 cafes, which we shut down with 400 employees. And our loan was about $1 million. So we were working with one of the big three major banks, and we publicly actually said that we couldn't get a PPP. We had a really hard time working through them. We had the same types of emails and communication, and we were one of the big small business clients to this bank. And we actually had two banks, I should say. We have two of the big three. And a lot of them, you got to understand, as they're processed and they're trying to automate it. They're not in the business of really administering these loans. Whereas I would say the regionals and the local banks are a lot more, I would say hungry, but essentially more hungry. You always say that smaller people work harder, and I believe that. And so everything that Janie was talking about related to chasing and being impatient, I think that is 100% true. I was going to say very similar things where I did 11 applications, 11. And given whether Janie and we all know each other from the small business world, we generally know what's going on and we're ahead of everyone. But even then, we couldn't even get our applications in. I remember that Friday, April 6th, when everything was dropping, I was told to wait at two of my banks, and one of them was ready, but the other one wasn't. And we still ran into issues. And to this day, I think I just got the email from one of the banks this Monday. So that will tell you how long it takes to finally apply. So what happened was we used we applied from all the different sites. There's two main categories of these of alternative non-big banks. There's regional, and you go directly to them. And then there's also a lot of what you would call aggregators. So Lendio is one that's popular, and I know they process quite a few. And I know there's also, I wouldn't say they're aggregators, but alternative ones. Like I know PayPal has gotten a lot of people, and Square, I'm working with Square on one. So Square is about to introduce a PPP process. So related to all of those, the one set of tips I would advise is, number one, have all your docs and numbers ready. The faster you can get your numbers through and approved, the more willing the bank will work with you. I do think you have to pester them. So we got a Hawaiian bank. So our bank is Central Pacific Bank in Hawaii. We did have a connection there, so that was it. But we had to pester them, and we really had to work our network in. So we had there's this great website also, getpploans.com, where the guy behind it is James, and James helps expedite and really call the bank and really get noticed on your behalf. So there's no money related to that one. But the moral of the story is you have to get to the people, because most of the regional banks are not going to automate these processes. So it's almost manual. And it is first come, first serve. But even then, how are you going to look at a stack of paper or a stack of applications? So I think I highly recommend people just having everything ready, applying. Again, I did 11 times, and really making sure that they have all alternative sources for to stay afloat during this time. The good news, as we mentioned earlier, the SBA hopefully we're getting another influx of stimulus, and that will help a ton, because most people know what the process is now. So it's going to be, we think, roughly in the same pipeline. I don't know exactly how it works, but we think it's going to be a similar process. So I hope that helps. I'll have my Instagram handle in the comments right now because I get a lot of questions, and usually they're specific to your situation, like what size, 1099s and all that. And I think it's easier to do that as a one-off. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andrew. I think it's the same thing I'm hearing is you really have to hustle. You really have to be really proactive. The documentation, follow up, follow through, just being entrepreneurs, right? Both of you guys are a great example for the community too. Thank you so much. So next we have a non-government organization, Dennis Madero. He's the executive director at Chinese Mutual Aid Association in Chicago. Dennis, how are you?
Good, thanks, Anson, and thanks for having me, everyone. So Chinese Mutual Aid successfully got funded for our PPP loan. We got 1.26 million, which is about 2.5 months of our payroll and our health insurance and our FICA. We, as the other speakers, we spoke to multiple banks. The bank that we chose to go to was the one that we have our operating account through because we knew that they would be the most well vested in making sure that as a client that we would keep a nice robust operating account going with the bank. It also helped that one of the leaders of that bank is a guy named Mike Chin in Chicago, First Midwest Bank, and he is a leader of the AAPI community. And so it was like a really great thing in terms of that. However, as Mike is well aware, we spoke to other lenders, and we had, as the other speakers mentioned, we had our information ready to go with 2-3 other banks, and other banks were trying to actively woo us to submit that application. And as the other speakers mentioned, we were pretty much checking in with our business banker at First Midwest daily, just to even have a 2-minute call about any information or text. And so we were given the impression that we were a top priority for First Midwest Bank, and that we had everything. Our business banker, it wasn't Mike, but a liaison in his bank, looked over our application, assured us that everything was good to go. The reason why I bring that up, my wife has a small business. She's a dentist, and her bank, which was not First Midwest, her lender didn't realize that like her social security number or something was like off by a digit. And then that ended up, even though she submitted like a week prior to we did, her application didn't go through. So it just like those little things that you just want to make sure that that your stuff is all correct. But then do you feel that the loan officer and the banking team have you prioritized? And if you don't feel that way, that they have you prioritized, then as the other speakers mentioned, you should consider, if you don't have a confirmed SBA loan number, you should consider potentially just jumping to someone else that is trying to woo you a bit better. The other aspect, again, we are a 501c3, and just to emphasize to other nonprofit organizations that are out there, that this is available to 501c3s. I happen to sit on the national board of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce, and so we were having a call, and a lot of our members were talking about applying for PPP, and the Federation Chamber itself forgot to apply for the PPP. And so I reminded the Federation that they should apply, and because we have paid staff, and that the payroll could be in that, and that all of the regions throughout the country that comprise the membership of the Federation, if they have paid staff, those people and those different regions could be perfectly great candidates to apply for the PPP, whether on the past round or in this next round of funding.
Got it. That's fantastic. So using your existing banking relationship does help, and also follow through. And we are super happy that Chinese Mutual Aid got the funding because it's such an important organization within.
Yeah, no, and our loan closed, and within 24 hours of it closing all electronically, we got the money wired into our account. So
that's great. That's fantastic.
yeah, and which is great because we provide a lot of direct services to the low-income immigrant community, and we haven't had to lay off people, and this gives us the financial cushion not to have to lay off people in a really uncertain time, and our staff are doing things like providing services to like the elderly and to the disabled, and citizenship programs, and teaching English to new immigrants, and things of that sort. So this has been a really good fortune for us to be able to get it.
That's good.
Thanks, Bo.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Robert, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just had two other things just for clarity's sake. First off, just a reminder that if you do decide to apply to multiple banks, remember that each applicant can only receive one PPP loan per the rules. So just want to clarify that that is the rule there. And then the other certification that you'll have to make when you apply is that current economic uncertainty makes this loan request necessary to support the ongoing operations of the applicant. So again, there's a certain need component that you need to certify to. This isn't for businesses that are, growing and expanding because whatever industry they're in is doing really well. This is, supposed to be for those that are adversely impacted by the coronavirus and what's going on.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification. So I'm going to kick it back to George to close us out. George, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much and congratulations to our business owner and nonprofit organization. And I want to thank the government folks. Being part of the government for a long time, I realized that we really want to try our best to help, but we can't help everyone. So the nonprofit organization are really great at filling the gap. And I want to say thank you for our friends from the White House Initiative, and obviously our co-sponsor and host, Chang, Ace, and Ensign. Let me close by on a personal note. I don't want to take too much time. I recently joined a organization as a board member, Illinois Facility Fund, IFF.org. And I haven't been onboarded yet as a board member, but I just realized that they actually have a support system for nonprofit in the Midwest, and IFF.org, and to help nonprofits apply for the PPP loan. And I'll be sending out more information. I haven't done a good job as a board member because I haven't even been on board yet, but that's another thing that we look to. I know that everyone's in looking for the answer to the particular problem. I'm not really sure we could actually give answer to answer your question, but we are committed that if you send in questions, Anson and I work through and work with our speaker and make sure we answer a question and get back to you. And we know who you are. And I believe that this is going to be recorded again, right, Daniel?
It's recorded.
Okay, so we'll get it out to everybody in case you want to share that. And just a last reminder before I let you go, Bo Steiner will be back in 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll get more updates. And I'm hoping that we get more success story we could share and other important federal government agency messages. We do want to keep this set of serious a national focus. Anson and I are actually working on the next set. There's maybe we skip every other week. They're local to the Illinois area. So just stay tuned for that. All right, thank you very much. And thank you again for all my speakers. And see you in 2 weeks. Have a great day.
Come back
Be safe.
to May 6th.
Yes.